They called you gifted, advanced, exceptional. You got pulled out of class to solve puzzles while the rest of the kids were learning long division. You read at a 12th grade level in the 4th grade. And everyone told you the same thing. You're going to do big things. But here you are, 10, 15, maybe 20 years later, staring at your to-do list, feeling stuck, second-guessing every decision, working hard, getting nowhere, and wondering quietly to yourself, was that all a lie? Yeah, kind of. Let's talk about it. If you're already getting flashbacks to awkward gifted kid moments, hit that like button. And if you're new here, subscribe. This channel's for the overthinkers who were told they were special and now just want to feel normal. So here's the lie you were sold as a gifted kid. That intelligence equals success. That being smart meant you'd never struggle, that everything would come naturally, that you wouldn't have to try because trying is for people who aren't gifted. But here's what they forgot to mention. Struggle is the process. Effort isn't a punishment. And being smart, it's not a skill. It's a starting point. You weren't gifted, you were conditioned to associate ease with value, to equate speed with worth, to believe that if something didn't come instantly, it wasn't for you. So now, when you sit down to do something that actually matters, writing that book, building that business, applying for that job, and it doesn't flow effortlessly, you freeze. You think, maybe I'm not who I thought I was. Maybe I peaked in middle school. Maybe all that praise was misplaced. But here's the real problem. You weren't taught how to learn. You were taught how to win. And those are not the same thing. Learning is messy. It's full of failure, revision, embarrassment. It takes time. It requires vulnerability. It means being bad at something on purpose until you get better. But if you were the smart kid, you weren't allowed to be bad at things. That was for other people. You had a role to play. So instead of trying and failing like everyone else, you became a master at avoiding effort, avoiding discomfort, avoiding anything you might not be instantly good at. And now you call it procrastination. But really, it's fear. Fear that you're not who they said you were. Fear that if you try and fail, the truth will finally be revealed. You were never gifted. You were just early. Here's another part of the lie. You were rewarded for being quiet, quick, and clever, not curious. You learned to value answers over questions. You memorized instead of explored. You followed the rules, got the grades, and never learned how to build something from scratch. So now you find yourself with big dreams and no tools, no system, no stamina, just pressure, just expectation. Everyone thinks you've got it figured out, but inside you're spiraling. Being gifted is not a diagnosis. It's not a shortcut to happiness. It's not a prophecy. It's just a label. And you're allowed to outgrow it. In fact, you should, because real growth starts where giftedness ends. When you stop chasing speed and start embracing slowness. When you stop performing and start practicing. When you stop obsessing over being special and start becoming skilled. You were told you had potential, but no one told you how to activate it. Because potential is useless if it keeps you trapped. Trapped in your head, trapped in your image, trapped in the fear of being found out. Let me guess. You're scared of being mediocre. You're scared of trying your best and still not being the best. You're scared that effort will make you look weak. But here's the truth. Effort is everything. Effort is where identity becomes action, where fantasy becomes craft, where I could becomes I did. And that's what you've been missing. Not more talent, not more intelligence, but the permission to be a beginner again. Because deep down, you don't want to impress people. You want to build something. Something real, something yours, something that doesn't crumble the second you're not perfect. So here's your permission slip. Be bad at things. Take up space. Ask dumb questions. Start over. Because giftedness got you here, but it won't take you further. Only grit will. Only consistency will. Only being willing to look dumb, fail loud, and try again will. It's not too late to rewire this. You don't need to reclaim your old identity. You need to release it. You're not a disappointment. You're just in transition. From praise to purpose. From pressure to process. From potential to practice. And can we talk about burnout? Not the kind you get from 80-hour weeks, the kind that creeps in from years of trying to live up to a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore. The kind that says, if I stop being impressive, will anyone still care? That's not productivity. That's emotional exhaustion. Gifted kids often grow up into adults who overanalyze everything, not because they're dramatic, but because their brain was trained to scan for failure. Every email, every message, every silence becomes a test they think they're failing, even if no one else notices. And perfectionism? That's just fear in a cap and gown. It's the fear of being exposed, of being average, of showing up without a mask. But perfection isn't the goal. Progress is. And progress is always a little messy, always a little awkward, always a little real. Most of what made you gifted wasn't your brain. It was your fear of letting people down. It was the way you shaped yourself to meet expectations. It was performance, polished and approved. But who are you without the gold stars? That's the better question. Sometimes the hardest part isn't starting. It's letting go of the image, the version of you that was always on top, always right, always praised. Growth begins when you give yourself permission to evolve beyond the identity that once kept you safe. And maybe it's time to redefine what success looks like. Not viral, not perfect, not high achieving in a LinkedIn post kind of way, but slow, sustainable, quietly powerful, the kind that feels like peace instead of pressure. Because your value isn't in your speed, it's in your willingness to stay. Stay with the hard stuff. Stay with the practice. Stay even when your inner critic screams that you're falling behind. That's what builds something real. So if this video hit that nerve you've been pretending doesn't exist, hit like. Subscribe if you're done performing and ready to build something real. And comment below, what's one lie you believed about being gifted? And what are you replacing it with? You're not behind. You're just starting over. This time for real. See you in the next one.